I would never recommend that anybody buy a new EV, and I would even more never recommend that anybody buy a used EV. For all the many reasons you should stick with your internal combustion engine car as long as possible, such as practicality, convenience and purchase price, used EVs have an additional major problem which does not affect regular cars, and that is assessing its condition. When you buy a regular car, there are plenty of inspections and tests that can be carried out easily by mechanics, and that, together with a service record, will give you a pretty good idea of the condition of that car. A service book full of regular stamps showing recommended maintenance has been carried out is a valuable part of assessing the condition of a pre-owned car. But what happens when there's just a battery and a motor? How do you determine whether that battery has been fast charged too much, or whether it's been overheated or overcharged, or has just degraded? Welcome to the nightmare of assessing used EVs. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer turned Sydney YouTuber. Please be sure to like, share and subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment down below, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter X. We'll go into the difficulties of assessing batteries in a moment, but coincidentally, this story popped up in my feed earlier today. Porsche Taycan turbos have lost up to $100,000 value in 4 years. This high-performance German EV has taken a big drop in value. Depreciation is hitting EVs harder than most other vehicles. A combination of technology upgrades, price fluctuations on new cars, and lack of demand has meant a rapid drop in value for many electric models. This phenomenon is especially dramatic for Porsche's Taycan EV, with high-spec turbo models losing almost $100,000 in value within 4 years. Here we have a Porsche certified 2020 turbo with just under 15,000 miles and a current asking price of $89,998 and an original MSRP of $179,630. That's a drop of $89,632. Next up is a Porsche certified 2020 Turbo S with 21,635 miles and a current asking price of $105,900. It had an original MSRP of $206,950. That's a depreciation drop of $101,050. Glossing over the fact that EVs don't have turbos anyway, the ultimate irony is that if you'd bought a 911 instead, you'd have probably gained on your investment in the same time. But it's hardly surprising that these chemical reactions on wheels lose so much value. There's a big difference between assessing and valuing an internal combustion engine car and an EV, and both consumers and dealers are struggling. At least the value of an internal combustion engine car is intrinsic to the car itself. It's essentially based on what you can see. But how do you judge intrinsic value of an EV when the most expensive element, which can often be worth as much as 50% of the entire vehicle, is basically just a bunch of chemicals in the battery cells, which will, over a period of years, inevitably degrade and become worthless? And it's a massive headache for car dealers, as this example demonstrates. A motor dealer friend of mine purchased a Mercedes-Benz hybrid S-Class a while ago. If the car is under 10 years old, which it was, the dealer has to give a statutory 3-month warranty. He sold the car, but a while later the customer came back, complaining of a problem with the hybrid battery. And after some diagnostics, Mercedes determined that a new hybrid battery was required, costing over 30,000 Australian dollars. The car was only worth a bit over $40,000 in total. So guess what? He won't be touching EVs or hybrids again, that's for sure. I mean, why take the risk? You can get a simple mechanical inspection of an internal combustion engine car and be fairly sure what you're buying. Nothing is completely foolproof, of course, but the chances of losing like that are way less. And as a result, when dealers are offered EVs, they want to reduce the risk as much as possible and they offer low values, dragging the market down with them. And before everyone says the battery management system can tell what's going on in the battery, well, maybe to some extent, but the diagnostic systems are proprietary and they can't be read with your standard OBD2 reader, that's for sure. Here are a few extracts from a recent article on Automotive News. Assessing battery life for used EVs is not that simple. The complexity of batteries can fuel dealer consumer concerns and questions when selling and buying used EVs. History offers little data. It's one of the most top-of-mind questions auto dealers and vehicle buyers alike have about a used electric vehicle. What's going on with the battery? For dealers, having a way to easily determine the state of that battery is a critical point of concern. Some are wary of acquiring used EVs when there is a chance they might have to replace a costly battery before it can be retailed. EV battery replacements range from $5,000 to $20,000, actually a lot more than that, by the way, based on the pack size and manufacturer, according to EV battery and range analytics firm Recurrent. EV battery repair costs can dissuade would-be buyers too. But it's not so simple as determining how much is left in the battery. It's more complex than that, said Recurrent CEO Scott Case. By way of background, Recurrent is a company that provides battery health reports on EVs, so it's clearly enough of a problem that there is a market for providing such reports. What is the difference between the health and life of an EV battery? It's an important distinction to think about, Case said. A used EV battery's state of health is a measure of the ability of the many lithium-ion cells within to store energy compared with those in a new battery. When a battery is new, its capacity to store energy is higher. Depending on factors such as age, temperature, and charging habits, those cells can degrade. Case said California and the European Union have made pushes to disclose EV battery states of health, which would include testing batteries in used EVs to estimate capacity during charging, capacity during discharging, i.e. driving, resistance or how hard it is for electrons to move in and out of each battery cell, which can affect vehicle performance. This is essentially the battery passport that I mentioned in my earlier video, linked up here. What about predicting how long a used EV battery will last? How long an EV battery will last can be projected based on how it's aged so far, Case said. However, he's not aware of anyone who is able to do that with precision. There are too many variables that go into it, and the future can't be known, he said. This is really just scratching the surface, but the last sentence really encapsulates it all. There are too many variables. Just to give you an idea, here is a diagram showing all the ways that lithium-ion batteries can be degraded, divided primarily into 6 categories. High temperature, low temperature, those are self-explanatory, high state of charge, continuing to charge beyond 80%, low state of charge, allowing the battery to discharge to less than 20%, high charging current, i.e. using fast chargers all the time, high discharging current, i.e. accelerating fast while driving. But each of those has multiple ways in which it can degrade a battery. Overcharge, for example, can cause binder decomposition, corrosion of aluminium current collector, low anode potential, solid electrolyte interface dissolution, solvent intercalation, gas formation, and electrolyte decomposition. And they said EVs were simple. I believe the battery is at the core of EV depreciation. There are other factors, of course, price cuts to new vehicles being one, and new generations of vehicles superseding older generations being another. But the battery really is the Achilles heel of EVs. Not only is it frighteningly expensive to replace and often impossible to repair, it is remarkably fragile and can be degraded in so many ways, and has a finite life expectancy, beyond which it's only fit for recycling.